Hey everybody,
That's what it is.
we are back. Yay.
I'm not getting the. There it is.
As you can now put people in timeout for different lengths ranging from 10 seconds to 24 hours. Apparently they needed us to know that. Welcome everybody. Briar the Liar. Hey, hi Briar. Welcome to the show. A few people popping in. Guess we'll see what we talk about. Yule's coming up Thursday. Briar the Liar says, I guess I'm first again. Ha ha, yes. Yes, you are. At least you're the first one to make comments, and I believe you were the first one here too. So, congratulations. Ah,
Hey, Joe.
Jono. Hi, hi, Jono. I like your exclamation points. Osaru says, "Grand evening, grand sister." Thank you. Afternoon here, but yes, it is quite grand. Where do you hail from? Briar the Liar says, "There the people are. They have been hiding in the shadows." Hello. Yes. Hello, everyone. Yep, we definitely had a intense week last week, but everybody is healthy at this point and home, and everything is good. Ruth says, hi all. Hi, Ruth. Welcome. So I'm planning on doing dinner on the solstice this year. I bought an extra turkey at Thanksgiving. So I'm going to bring it out. Sundrop says, hey, miss you. Hi, Sundrop. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, sorry about the last one. It was just intense.
Well, yeah,
Intense day.
it was clearly not a day we were going to be up for having our brains together. So these things happen to all of us at some time or another. Amy says, hi. And Ian says, blue-handed heart? I don't know what that is exactly.
Heart face.
The
I
heart
don't know
face.
what else to call it.
Yep, some kind of a heart face. I actually had a thing this morning that hasn't happened to me a while. A voice said, hello, made me wake up and get out of bed. I woke up and went, okay, I guess I better get out of bed. That was the end of that. Briar says, I'm in a good mood today. I found out I show up on the internet. Well, yes, that's wonderful to show up on the internet, if that's where you want to be. I was really tickled with some of the responses I got from my last video. I never know how the things I say are going to be taken, so it's always a surprise to me. Briar says, I looked up on my YouTube channel on Chrome and Google. Well, awesome. Grumpy Owl says, hi. Hi, Grumpy Owl. Amy says, heart in hand. Well, maybe, but there's two hands. So, Donna says, I saw you have a video on projections. I haven't seen it yet. You mind saying what it's about? About projections on others. The projections we make on other people and that other people make on us. And I talk a little bit about the mirroring exercise and the dangers of it, thinking that everything in the universe is a reflection of yourself, which is ludicrous. Pryor says, laugh out loud. So, just stuff, talking about things in my head. think it's an important process when we're doing our shadow work and trying to become clear, that we become aware of our projections, both positive and negative. Says, yeah. Boy, there's some unique figures out there.
Yep.
The internet has fun coming up with them. Gypsy Barnell says, good evening, Siofra and Ian. I'm very happy to see you back. I hope your granddaughter is making a good recovery. Yes, she's definitely doing better. It's slow progress, but it's progress. And, yeah. So, Donna says, cool. I'm looking forward to watching it. Awesome. I'm looking forward to see what you think of it when you watch it. You know, me and my rambling. Gypsy Barnell, is she home? Yes, she is home. And probably watching the show right now. Just FYI.
Yeah.
She is usually watching the show. So, hey, Ashley, her granddaughter. Diane says, hi, made it at last. Hi, Diane. How are you? Do people have plans for upcoming solstice, either winter or summer, depending on where you live? I know that the winter solstice is happening on Thursday this year. I'm assuming the summer solstice happens at the same time as the winter solstice. It makes sense. I've never looked at it to see if there's a difference. Gypsy Barnes says, I am happy to hear that. So are we. Glad that she's safe and feeling better.
Ready for summer to start already over here.
And we're just
We've got
hitting,
a few months left yet.
Yeah, we're just hitting winter solstice.
Yep.
I was thinking about that song, oh, the summer days are gone. Where's the sun? Where's the sun? Oh, the summer days are gone and the winter lingers on, and we hunger for the dawn of the sun. Oh, the days are never bright. Where's the sun? Where's the sun? Oh, the days are never bright, every night a longer night, and we hunger for the light of the sun. The only time of year that it makes sense to sing that song, but I like it a lot. Shay says, lovely to hear you both. Hi, Shay.
Hi, Shay.
I Love Math says, I am new to astral projection, but I'm currently astrally blind. How can I get rid of that? Can you talk more about astral projection, please? Well, I don't know exactly what to say. Well, mental projection is safer than astral projection, so hopefully mental projection is what you're going to. But what you want to do is to develop your ability to see things with your mind's eye, with your eyes closed, and that will help to a certain extent. But once you actually get there, things are just clear and they just happen. You don't have to try and see when you arrive, because the vision in the other planes is more clear than it is here. So I'm not sure. Do you have any ideas?
Well, other than following Bart's methods to develop your clairvoyance, that's about the best. And astrally, as far as seeing stuff, you can always do the old. It works on your astral eyes if you follow these scrying techniques for magic mirrors and things like that. That would be my suggestion. Would be either go through Bart's book to that point and get your clairvoyance that way through developing it through the book, or through scrying, crystal vision, something related to water will help. Gaze on it, like a scrying mirror. You just gaze on it. You want it someplace you don't get a lot of reflections and stuff for this exercise. Just gaze on it, let your mind go blank, let your eyes go soft. And if you're getting in the zone, you'll start seeing like a gray, something like a gray mist or a bubbly mist, or
Popcorn,
something like something shifting there, and that can develop into your clairvoyant vision. Barden uses the techniques of first imagining different colors and things in the magic mirror and projecting them there and holding them, and then so he does the exercises to build up your actual astral muscles, if you would, for that. But yeah, some Aboriginal crystal gazing at water, big body of water like a still lake, especially towards dusk, that type of thing. All of those things could potentially help.
And it's a process. It's
Yeah.
not instantaneous. And gaining control over it, it's everything sort of comes together as far as doing your interpersonal shadow work, etc., learning boundaries and more control over your magical abilities and so forth. They all kind of come together as a sort of a package kind of thing. There's not just one thing to do, but it evolves. Diane says, I am good. Hope to have a fire in the garden for solstice if it is dry. Cool. Jay says, I can hear you sing that. Yeah, I know you've heard me sing that in the past. Briar says, I appreciate you saying my name on YouTube here because I know it will be in your video on YouTube forever. And I want to be known by all. You know what I mean. I want to never be forgotten. Cool.
Okay.
Julia says, happily slips into my spot. Hey, everyone. Hi, Julia. Briar says, I meant I want to be known by all. Alexis says, hello, just joined. Happy to be here. Hi, Alexis. Jono says, step 1, all Siofra's boundary ghost proofing stuff. Step 2, try to get lucid dreaming right. Step 3, mental projection. Step 4, astrally project into a secret military base. Done. But that was an accident.
Sounds like a good description.
I did not do that on purpose. It was an accident. I was bored. What can I say? Alexis says, I'm very interested in shadow work. If you'd like to speak on that, I'm not sure how to start. Well, I have a bunch of videos I've done on shadow work because it's a complicated subject. There's no doubt about it. And it's not something you can just do once and then you're done. It's a lifelong process and journey. And the farther in you go, there's always more to uncover. It's like the idea of shadow work is basically to get to know who you are and to figure out who you want to be, and then take those things, because you cannot change yourself if you don't acknowledge where you're at. You have to do that part first. You have to know who you are without hiding from the warts and blisters and bruises and everything else that we all have that we carry around from experiences or what have you, or expectations, and then transform those things into something that you want to keep. So you're turning your what you might think of as your warts, your things that are holding you back, into strengths and gaining that power back, and so you become a more whole person that way. So making what you think of as your lacks into something that's now your strength. And yeah, so I have some exercises that I recommend that people can do. There's different meditational practices that you can do. The video I just did on projections is part of that process as well. Becoming familiar with who you are, because the point of this is to become clear as an individual. And you can't do that unless you can see what your own biases, prejudices, projections, the stories we tell ourselves, the things that we believe because someone told us to believe them, and haven't evaluated this. The whole process of self-evaluating where you're at is definitely an important part of the shadow work, I think. And that's how you create effective and healthy boundaries and define yourself, because that's what this is about, defining yourself. And then you have a chance of communicating more completely and directly with the universe and developing a relationship with everything, your own unique relationship. Briar the Liar says, it's about understanding your dark desires, if I'm not mistaken, and not letting your darkness eat you up.
That's definitely part of it.
That's part of it, but that's not the entirety of it. Like I said, turning those things into your strengths, an asset rather than a liability. It's not about denying who you are or what has happened to you, but by transforming it. Starhawk does a good job. She had one of her covens was called Compost. That was the public name of the coven. And she named it compost because that's the notion. It's like you're taking all the garbage and the junk and the yuck that's happened to you, and you're using that knowledge, that energy and experience, and composting it into something else, growing something from it, something that you want, some plant or whatever, if it's a garden kind of thing. And I did have a lot of dreams of finding hidden gardens and closets when I started that process, I think, when I was about midway through the process. But like I said, you're never completely over it. But yeah. And the better you know yourself, the easier it is for you to tell if someone else other than you is trying to communicate with you. Because that's where a lot of people have questions about, how do I know if it's a voice in my head or my guardian angel or guardian spirit or spirit guide or whatever, or some other spirit being. And knowing who you are is the only way to know that. You got to know that first. And that gives you, this is me, and then there's other, which is not me. Prior says, if you don't work on it, that may not hurt you, from what I understand. Yeah. Yeah, so, since for us in the Northern Hemisphere, winter solstice is going to be the longest night. Certainly between Samhain and winter solstice is when a lot of people do some pretty intense shadow work. And then the next 3 months after that, coming from winter solstice to spring equinox, is when you try to coalesce the lessons or the things that you've absorbed and make progress with them, if you're just looking at it from a solar year perspective. But we're always doing that kind of thing. And making mistakes is a human thing, and if you can't learn from your mistakes, then they've been a waste of time, I figure. And that's how I've used, like, some of the horrific things that have happened to me. I've turned them into something that I can use to help me understand certain kinds of people, or understand myself and my own responses, make myself more aware of the warning signs that I'm becoming involved with someone who is dangerous to me, and all that stuff. I figured that way at least it wasn't a waste of time and effort. I've turned it into something that I can use, and that works for me. I understand we're having a pretty good solid solar storm right now too. It's kind of interesting. Always could feel the northern lights when they came. Jano says, I view shadow work as the Ritchie approach to self-improvement and psychology. It's a deliberate effort to understand yourself and let go of what no longer serves you. Also, it's never finished, ever. Yes, and that's a good definition of shadow work. Definitely. Because it is. It's sort of using magic to help you get a little bit deeper than just straight psychology can usually avail you of. So.
And a little more directly sometimes.
Yeah. It's a way of reprogramming your own subconscious instead of being stuck with whatever was there before you became aware of the fact that you had choices. And that's one of the things I like about the path and magic and so forth, is that ability to shape and transform myself into what I want to be. Every choice you make helps to make you who you are. And then what you learn from those choices decides who you're going to be.
Very true.
Alexis says, I'm so excited. I'm about to graduate massage school. Well, congratulations. I'm retiring from massage. So, yay. It's been a wonderful career, and I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. So, the ability to help people who are in pain feel better, someone coming in not being able to walk, being able to walk when they get off the table and leave in better shape than when they arrived, has been very satisfying emotionally for me, for sure, as well as gratifying for my clients over the years. Briar the Liar says, in my opinion, your dark side is your dark self, the side where your morals don't line up with what people see as okay. Well, that's one way of describing it, but if you integrate it, then it's no longer true because you've become your own moral
Well,
authority.
yeah, but then that has an opposite side too. As usual, the sword cuts two ways. You get to a certain point and you start realizing if you've been taking yourself the right direction, you start realizing, and it becomes the morals of most people become not aligned with yours, because if you're doing it right, you're improving your morals. And I'll tell you, in general, from looked at from an enlightened point of view, morals of average society are very, very poor.
Well, that's true because they use a lot of rationalizations and justifications to do what they want and pretend that they have some kind of an authority behind it. But when you go completely through the shadow work, your brain doesn't think the same way anymore. But that doesn't mean that you become like a horrific individual and have no ethical center. That's a misnomer. And that's something that some other religions misunderstand about paganism, is that because we don't have a set of rules that say this is how you behave and
Yeah,
this is how you don't
the old
behave,
Ten Commandments thing,
that
yeah.
that we don't have any sense of what's right and what's wrong. But for me, it's the opposite.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, it gives you a better sense of what's really right and what's wrong, and it's not dependent on something somebody thousands of years ago wrote down in a manuscript that we found in a cave somewhere and decided to like make a giant deal of it. Sorry, pardon me, there are Christians listening.
Well, I mean, the whole point is that you come closer to actually having free will and making your own choices and decisions, and then you have to face the consequences. You become responsible for your own spiritual evolution and development, and no one else has the reins. It's all up to you. So you decide who you want to be and whether or not that's a person you want to spend the rest of eternity with, which is how I sort of came to it. I did not care for who I was at the time and who that meant I was becoming, and would I want to spend the rest of eternity with who I was, and the answer was no. I did not like myself, and I wanted to change that and become a person that I could live with and not be trying to run away from. So there's lots of different ways of describing it. Donna says, Alexis, congratulations. Yes, Briar the Liar says, it's true, morals are set by others, often there are rules. Tammy says, harm none, including yourself. Well, that's the ideal, but it's impossible to actually complete, because by being alive, you are harming things around you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be alive. Because for one thing to live, something else has to expire. So, but it is sort of a goal, something to think about, to use when you're making decisions and choices about what you're going to do, is what kind of harm is that likely to do to someone else or myself, and is that like outside of the natural order of things, I guess, one way of describing it.
Yeah.
But it is like an impossible aspiration, because you breathe, you're killing bacteria. They're alive too. Viruses may not be.
Yeah,
but
and you get to a certain point and you start realizing that plants are alive. Killing a carrot
is the same thing. It's still killing.
it just an animal that you're going to eat doesn't have a face, or the vegetable doesn't have a face, but we're talking an ultimate energetic consciousness sense, and where the God consciousness is through everything. Carrots have a consciousness, and you're killing a carrot to eat it. You can't not do it. And how does the grass feel about being stepped on and damaged and injured by your feet when you walk on it? I took all those things. They may sound silly and superficial at first, but I really took all that into account. You can't avoid injuring things, but you have to set yourself right with it. You're not doing it. You're not harming things on purpose, I guess, is
Intention.
most of it. Yeah, what happens naturally happens naturally. Don't obsess over it, but also don't go out of your way to harm and damage things. Sorry if I'm getting too far.
That's okay. Briar
afield.
says, I get it. Beth says, hello, everyone. Kara says, hello. Hi, Kara. Hi, Beth. Donna says, I know you think Kundalini shouldn't be forced. How do you feel about shadow work being forced? If is everyone ready for shadow work? I guess it depends on how you're doing it. I used ritual successfully.
But where you have to be careful with that is if you're trying to help somebody else with their shadow work.
Yeah.
A person will generally have a certain amount of barriers that they should be approached slowly. I mean, don't force things too hard, but where you get into troubles with somebody else trying to help you with it, and they're not in that situation, and they may not have the understanding like you do from being inside it.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, I don't think you can force shadow work because by definition, if a person is not ready to face themselves, they'll do everything in their power not to, and by trying to make them face themselves, what you might be making them face would be your projection of who their shadow is, and not necessarily their shadow at all, because it is an individual
On the
experience.
other hand, a person might ask themselves, is it right to not butt in if a person is harming themselves through something like alcoholism, for example?
Well, that's a different thing than shadow work.
Well, it is, but I mean, it's still, there may be in any type of thing, there may be some things that people should be. I'm not the one to judge such a thing, but there may be some things that people should be forced to look at. I'm not saying that that's.
Well,
it depends on the circumstances you're in, of course.
Well, right. In Chinese philosophy, if you save someone's life, you're then responsible for their life forever. So,
I don't know how I feel about that either.
I don't know how I feel about that either. I'm just saying there's a lot of different moving parts, and you have to decide.
It would be for me personally, making a decision like that, whether to interfere with somebody else's free will, would actually take a lot and a lot and a lot of thought and decision before I decided to do such a thing, because I consider free will very important.
Yeah. Jono says, hi, Beth and Kara. Kara says, hi, Jono. But yeah. To save someone's life, we take people to the hospital when they're injured and sick, and that could be seen by some as interfering with their free will. So,
but I definitely
it's a question.
Yeah, I definitely do magical things to try to for my own shadow work. I try to use magic and ritual as thoroughly as I can, really get myself transformed, because I don't know about some people, but I am like a rock. It takes work and work and work and work.
Beth says, hi, Kara. Hi, Jono. Kara says, hi, Beth. Everybody says hi to everybody. Hey. Julia says, being in denial can be just as harmful as doing something with your eyes open that is not good for you. I feel as if friends who have some skills at handling psychological and social issues can help. It's always good if the person who is in need of help can reach out and ask for it, because then that means that there's a better chance that they're ready to make change and do something, because in the end, the only person who can change is themselves. Each individual has to choose to change on their own, no matter how much support they might have from the outside. So it's complicated, there's no doubt about it. Pryor says, I'm thinking what to ask. Jono says, I messed up like that with Luna. I tried to give her an empowering guided meditation experience, and I just ended up digging up trauma I shouldn't have. I'm going to be more careful. I feel bad. The path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Very true.
And then that is a very true thing. Like when I was in massage school, they did guided meditation journeys and stuff like that without thinking about the potential differences between where people were at. And I'm a really good meditator. When I'm in a guided meditation journey, I'm in 100%. If I trust the people who are doing it, and the first time they did it, I had no reason not to trust them, my bad. And so I was completely into the meditation that they were doing, and at the end of it, they left me in a room with my father, which was probably about the worst possible thing they could have imagined having me to do, considering the abuse and the torture that I suffered at his hands. And I ended up in a complete and total mental breakdown for the rest of the evening. I couldn't really pay attention to classes because I was in the corner crying. I took that happened to me and I went to the administration's office and told them that they didn't know what they were doing when it came to guided meditation journeys, because that was a big failure, and that if I was going to participate, I needed to know what was going to be coming. Their response was, then that means it won't work, because if you know what's coming, the whole point of it is the surprise. So they failed to listen to anything that I said, and I wasn't the only one who had a bad reaction. There was another female student in the class who had a similar event, I guess, that I had. So at that point, I didn't trust them anymore, and the next guided meditation they had us do, I have this ability to set off a part of myself as kind of like my watchdog, the intermediary or something. And so I put that outside of me, and it hears what's coming in, evaluates its safety for me, and then lets it through. And then I decide if I'm going to like do that part of the meditation. And this was supposedly to develop empathy for your clients. And they wanted me to imagine that I was old, infirm, in pain all the time, about ready to die, and completely angry. And I'm like, no, I am not going to put that image in my brain, because then I will become the images that I put inside of me.
Well, yeah, whether you intend to or not, you attract that stuff.
And I have plenty of empathy. I don't need to be taught how to empathize with people that are in pain. So I came out of it. And so did the other woman who'd had trouble the first time. So she did a similar thing to me. So yes, it is fraught with potential harm, and certainly plenty of lessons there. And the school never did get it, so I never did trust them again after that. Beth says, I have been teaching yoga, dance, and meditation years before I started a massage school, and they did a meditation, and it was not a good one. Yeah, I mean, they're people. Julia says, quite honestly, I'm not interested in a guided meditation by a stranger who doesn't know some of the pitfalls that could be in the way of such guidance. Yes, true. Pryor says, you can never trust anyone that's a piece of wisdom. I'll never forget. Carolee says, same. Yeah, and then that's the thing, is like, a lot of people may not have a direct understanding of what it's like to be the survivor of sexual assault, torture by a parent, mental and spiritual abuse, and so forth, and don't know what the potential triggers might be for those of us who've gone through that. So I understand their lack of knowledge, but I was not appreciative of their effort, and took care of myself, which was another lesson. Like, so I don't trust easily when it comes to that kind of stuff, for sure. I want to know what it's going to be before I get into it, which is why when I do the journeys that I have online, like even the meditation, the sacred tree meditation, the first video about it is an explanation first of exactly what are the images and what they mean to me and why I chose them before I do the meditation. So if there's anything in there that's going to be triggering for someone, they can opt out before they start to try to experience it. And I'm fine with that, because I don't know everybody on the planet. That'd be a lot of people. I've got a busy head. But yes, so Cranky Pants says, hello all, my first live. Welcome. And Garrett Lee says, hello, Cranky. Diane says, they sound like weird meditation teachers. I have only had good experiences with it. You have got to be careful. Well, I was in a massage class later, like in the last few years, and there was another massage therapist who was talking about this experience that she had that she thought was wonderful, and her description of it gave me chills and made me feel really uncomfortable, because this was to teach you to be open, and they had you in the dark and with blindfold on, and allowing people you don't know who they are, well, they're supposed to be members of your class, but still touching you, and you're supposed to like relax and accept it. And everybody was very surprised and frankly upset with me when I said I thought that sounded like the most horrific thing I'd ever heard in my life. And being able to see that other people are going to have a different experience with something is something that some people have a hard time with. Not a judgment on her. She had a great time. She thought it was fantastic. And I'm like, oh my God, if anyone tried to do that to me, there'd be fists coming out all over the place. Friar the Liar says, don't trust people, trust yourself, but accept anything as possible. Beth says, hi, Cranky Pants. Alexa says, we haven't done any guided meditations like those. Well, just be aware. I don't know what kind of massage school you have, but be aware if they're going to do a guided meditation to try and have a little bit of a buffer from when you hear the words to when you do what they tell you to, so that you can make an informed decision. Because it really depends upon who's directing it and, you know, who designed it and all sorts of things. Friar says, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. This is true. Cranky Pants says, hello, Ed, Kara, and Beth. Friar says, it's a sad truth. Paula Sophia says, hi, everyone. Hope your granddaughter is doing well, Siofra. She is doing a lot better. Slow progress, but it's coming along. Beth says, we did that experience in massage school. Oh my, I was floating. I had an amazing experience, but that's just me. Well, that's the thing. Everyone's going to experience things based upon their own history and whatever things they might be working through. And that's why we're all different. And that's a good thing that we're all different. So just to remember that when people are designing things, it's always good to be upfront and let people decide whether it's safe for them or not. Sure did learn how to stand up for myself, though. It's like, wow. But yeah, and it's just one of those things. People who have an experience may not have the same kind of triggers at all, which is wonderful. I'm so glad that there are people who can experience that and find it fun and wonderful. It's just great. Julia says, punching you? Seriously, I mean, once I almost punched a dentist who hadn't numbed me enough before trying to pull a tooth and didn't know my hand was even raised before she spoke to me. Yeah, I've had a few thoughts on those lines myself. Gano says, I wouldn't feel comfortable with strangers touching me. One of my weirdest experiences was when 19 years a weird culty church baptized my roommate in a swimming pool and we laid on hands. Felt wrong. Friar Liar says, this may sound harsh, but people shouldn't follow others because you never know what their plans are. Well, the idea is to, make your own path. So you don't need to be following others. You can learn from others and their experiences and so forth, but you should be the ultimate arbiter of your own path for sure.
Yeah.
Diane says, we were just asked to go to our favorite place when I used to have a guided meditation. Yeah, that's kind of a relatively safe meditation because then you're in charge of the environment. These were not that. They were a little more structured, apparently. Had to go into therapy after that one, I think.
Like they needed destructured. Constructed.
Beth says, in my meditation classes, I always gave a disclosure that we know what they ran for to give them an option to stay or go. Great experience. Friar says, that's what I do. What I know is right. Yeah, you gotta do what's right for you. It's the only way that works. And like I said, you can't become an individual if you're not doing that. And that's what it's about. So our new bunny rabbit, whose name is Snow, is pooping everywhere, just like Nibbler. We have to wait until he or she is old enough to be fixed before apparently the potty training works well. But in the meantime, the rabbit is a very entertaining creature and is very good at leaping and actively pursuing playing with the cat. So Bugsy is sometimes like, what?
And he's just so cute.
He is. He's pretty cute with his punk rock hair sticking out all over the place. And I love how he flips. It's like he'll be facing this way and then he's facing that way, just that fast. It's just like boom, boom. It's like almost like he's teleporting or something. He's so quick. He's entertaining to watch. I like animals. Nose. Allergies are just kicking me this week. Shadow says, Siofra, are you so sensitive that you're kind of like Rogue from the X-Men when someone touches you? I imagine you are. Yeah, and also like Jean Grey as far as the telepathy thing goes and being overwhelmed by other people's thoughts. Um, I definitely identified with her character when the X-Men, when I first was introduced to the X-Men, was during the Phoenix saga, and yeah, I find that there's a lot of fictional characters that help me get a handle on my own abilities sometimes because writers come up with these notions and then I think about it and I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I never thought about that before, but that's a possibility. Maybe I should try that. Try and figure out how to control my abilities a little bit so I'm not flying off the face of the planet all the time, just occasionally. Dreams last night were just so intense. It was interesting, and I can't really remember them, but it was like a psychopomp play kind of thing that I was watching before the voice said hello and woke me up. I'm like, all right. It says, can't wait until Snow is ready for video time. Yeah, he is too antsy at this point. I can get him to be up in my arms for like a few seconds. Sometimes I can pet him, but if I pick him up like this, he's just like kicks off and it's gone just instantaneously. Kara says, yes. Fire says, someone who can look at someone and know what they're capable of and what they want. I suggest to everyone learning that. It's always good to be aware. That's what empaths do. Problem with empathy, of course, is the potential for projections, which is what the video is about, partially. Projecting our own feelings onto other people. Hard to stay clear, but it's a process. The more clear you are, the more accurate your information becomes. The more likely you are not to make big bloopers and mistakes and stuff. Yeah, got to do that this time. Just in case. All right. So, I'm not sure. I was thinking, wonder what people's favorite meditations are, just as a curiosity. Astra says, howdy. Hi, Astra. Fire says, Well, yes, we always have to evaluate ourselves in the process. When we think we're infallible is usually when we're in trouble. Skepticism, healthy skepticism, good quality to have. For sure. And always questioning things. Not to the point where you can drive yourself insane, but still being open to the possibility that we're wrong. Then we have a better chance of understanding other people. If you don't start from the basis that they know who they are and what they say is what they believe, then it's hard for them to see where they are and change how they believe. It's a weird thing. Fire says, I'm thinking my favorite meditation is, and says, I like chakra meditations best. I was taught those when I was a kid. I had that spirit that came and taught me different meditational exercises. That was one of them. Steph says, hi, Astra. Fire says, one of going to another realm. A specific realm or any realm that's different from here? Beth says, there are so many meditations I love, I can't pick just one.
Well, I agree myself. My meditations vary according to circumstances and also my mood. I have some I try to practice on a regular basis, not because they're my favorites, but because that's where I'm at in the system of um, self development that I'm trying to accomplish.
True.
But then I'll throw in all kinds of different stuff depending on what's going on that day. Maybe something to help my body if I'm feeling weak or painful or something else.
Yeah, I did 3 Reiki distance sessions this past week, and it was interesting because they were all different people, each one of them, so they all had different results. And one of the things that one of them taught me was that I cannot do Reiki on someone who's busy doing something else. She wanted to have her Reiki session while she was working at a music studio, and I kept trying to give her energy and kept getting bounced off, and because she was busy, her brain was busy, her mind was busy, her spirit energy and everything was busy. And I found it extremely exhausting and difficult. The first one I did that week was wonderful, and I had a really good, strong connection with the individual, and they had a very strong connection with me and apparently saw me. So that was interesting, and I picked up a lot of energetic information. And then the third person was asleep and was going to be going into surgery that morning. So that was fairly simple and straightforward, just giving them energy to help them through the surgical procedure they were going to be having. And I just did sort of a general, like, birth mother kind of embracing energy healing kind of focus. And so I'm still learning. I've decided to refine when I'm talking to people about doing distance Reiki to clarify that it's not just an ideal situation, that they know that I'm doing it when I'm doing it and that they're still in quiet, but it's a requirement for me as the person who's sending the energy to be able to be successful. And so it taught me that. It was interesting. Astra says, yeah, people have not arrived just because we have spiritual manifestations. I have orbs around my place and it's amazing, but I still have issues. Not starting a cult anytime soon. Always good not to start a cult. I'm in favor of that. Jono says, yeah, I'm not an empath, but I have empathy. This Gaza thing has been messing me up. Luna says, just don't look, but I haven't been able to stop. Lots of grounding after looking. I don't know. Yeah, it's just a terrible thing. People getting killed and suffering is not any fun at all. Fire says, my own little realm where my spirit guides wait for me. So sort of like your own astral temple. That's what I would call it. Your own temple space. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Astra says, wait, I think I'm getting mixed up with another portion of your live. What? Dizzy says, late, sorry, how's your daughter doing? Everything okay? Granddaughter, and yes, she's getting better and recovering. Fire says, basically, yeah. So yeah, I have a video on creating your own astral temple, and that is sort of what you're describing. And that is a good place to get acquainted with yourself because you can see it change and transform depending on what you're going through too, which is always kind of interesting. That happens. And that should be good for training for astral projection and stuff and mental projection.
True. Very true.
Going to an astral temple, doing those kinds of meditations. Better put this lid on before I put it down and we'll knock it over. And then we'll have water all over the floor. But yeah. And we're doing a little bit better emotionally. Friar says, I don't fear death at all. Something I know of is being reborn. Yeah, same here. I was born remembering a couple of different past lives, so, and then since then I've remembered about a dozen or more, I think. Fire says, I meant. Okay, not sure where that fit in. I meant I don't fear death. But I do remember being here before, and I remember some of my deaths, which is interesting when that happened. Weird, but interesting. There's a lot of things in my head at times. Very busy place some days. And other days it's very quiet. So, yay. I have moods.
I could definitely use more mentally quiet.
Diane says, I will have to check out your Astral Temple video. That sounds good. It is. It's always, it was surprising to me when I did it. The things that I saw were interesting. So if I see what I don't expect, I figure it's probably valid. If I see what I do expect, I always question its validity. Fire says, I meant just reborn, but there's another word for it. Reincarnation? Only one word for it.
That's when you put the water back into those little cans of condensed carnation milk, right?
Yeah. Yes, he says. Reincarnate. Yes, says Kara. Fire says yes. Yes, reincarnation. Most of the world actually believes in reincarnation, population-wise. Then doesn't. More of the world does than does not. I don't know if that means anything in particular, but it's interesting anyway.
Well, I believe in condensed milks. No, I believe in reincarnation.
Tammy says, I had something interesting happen. I have trouble in crowds. I purchased an onyx necklace for protection. Thanks, Siofra. You're welcome. That was from Jacqueline. She made that necklace. Dizzy said, sorry, my weird phone auto-corrected granddaughter to daughter. That's okay. Donna says, speaking about the unseen, those gnome dudes ever explain what they wanted with you? No, they just like to hang around and look at me and have me look at them. So far, nothing in particular. I'm just waiting. Like I said, you never know. But the new little fairy that showed up only came those 2 days, and I haven't seen her since. Of course, I've been kind of all over the place as far as my mentally emotional state is concerned for the last while, so that could explain it. Thinking having the dreams I had last night is probably a good sign. I'm getting back into the groove. And a few nights ago, I had to be careful because my other vision kicked in so strong, the whole room started flashing before I went to bed. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start seeing all kinds of stuff. I'm not sure if I really want to do that just before I go to sleep. So I closed my eyes and made it stop. It just depends. I was laughing. Paula says, sometimes if I focus on my breath too much during meditation, it feels a little claustrophobic. Interesting. Then you worry that you're not going to be able to breathe? Is that you're focused too much on it since it's such an automatic function that we, generally speaking, don't even think about? That's one of those things. It's like, becoming human takes effort and practice. Breathing well is something you can also practice and learn to do better. So it's kind of like interesting. Maybe getting too much CO in your brain with the exhales or something. Amy says, I wore it shopping, beautiful and for protection. I didn't notice until halfway through that people were moving out of my way without my asking. It was cool considering how packed it was for the season. Oh, that's terrific. I love that. Jacqueline's made some fantastic stuff with some really good genuine stones. And there's still some pieces on my Etsy site. So her wire wrap stuff is just impeccable, and I really am happy to have her stuff on my site. She was very generous. And she sent it all to me so I could ship it out. So, and I think my sister bought 4 pieces. 2 for herself, 2 for Christmas presents for daughters-in-law. I think that's all she bought. Maybe she bought another one. She might have bought a 3rd piece. Can't remember now, but anyway. Tammy says, also no panic, which is no small thing. That's fabulous. Because, when you're a very sensitive individual like you and like me, going into crowds can be difficult. I've got like bracelets that I wear most days when I'm going to go shopping so that I have easier time sloughing off other people's energy and ignoring it, and the holidays are particularly difficult for me because of the amount of people and then all the music coming in from the PA system. Not my favorite music. Diane says, I think I need one of those necklaces at the moment. Sarah says, same. Astro says, I get nervous when I hear creaks in my place, so sleep on a grounding mat and a copper fabric on me. I saw little people in my room. They were cute. They had white hair, male and female. Cute. Like it. Fryer says, I love creating sigils. Amy says, I'm planning to get some for my girls. Onyx or others. Shadow says, Paula, might not work for you, but to deal with morning anxiety, I just count my breaths, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, etc. It's a recent development. It's worked surprisingly well for me. Master says, then I thought, okay, I'm safe. They're just saying hi. Health. Yes. They're just checking you out because they find your energy interesting. When I went to a healer in Vancouver, British Columbia, many, many years ago, 1 year, and then the following year I did it, I went to her again. And the second time I went, she remembered me based upon the, as she called them, the bright spirits that went with me wherever I went. I thought it was pretty cool. I apparently bring an entourage of bright spirits with me wherever I go. So it was fun. Tammy says, I feel kind of brave now. That's good. I like it. Diane says, I wear halite for patience when I go out in crowds. Paula says, yes, as an automatic function becomes conscious, maybe I'm hyper aware of it. Well, yeah, because you're not paying attention to it most of the time. It just sort of happens, and then when you think about it, there's a yoga exercise at the end of doing, the movement exercises, the stillness exercise, which is to not change your breathing, but notice your breathing, which is very difficult to do because as soon as you notice your breathing, the first thing you want to do is change it. So it's quite the effort to not change it. Beth says, my allergies are going nuts the last couple of days. Anyone else? Mine. Definitely going crazy, just running all over. Not getting sick, just runny nose and sneezing like a maniac. Frankie Pants says, a few times a week I have scary dreams that cause me to wake up screaming. I know we do most of our work while sleeping. Any thoughts on what could be happening? I would first look at what are the things that you're eating or taking, because believe it or not, I've discovered there's some supplements that make me have horrific dreams. I don't know if that's what's happening to you or not, but it's always a good thing to look at your diet and your supplements. I can't take kava or melatonin. They give me horrific nightmares. And aspartame gives me doomsday attacks. And, everyone's system is different, so there could be something there. So I would first do a food diary and an activity diary and, write down when you're having the scary dreams and see if there's a correlation or not before you move on to other ideas. It'd be a good thing to eliminate. Astra says, wow, that's cool. Yeah, I like it. Apparently they like my energy. Sarah says, me. Paula says, thanks, Jono. I'll give that a try. Fryer says, I see I like to wear tiger's eye as well as other things. Yeah, tiger's eye is really good for pushing negative energy away from you automatically, sort of like as a barrier. And I use a lot of tiger's eye myself. Cranky Pants says, don't mean to change the subject, sorry. No, that's what we're here for. And it keeps us on our toes, having to shift subjects, right? It makes us have to think on our feet. Fire says, other crystals. Yes, there's lots of other crystals. Izzy said, I got an odd question as usual. Is it possible to destroy a demon, whatever level? I don't feel like that is something that should ever be done ethically, just saying, could they go to the light? Depending on your definition of demon, if it's a thought form that someone has created, yes, you can destroy it and have it dissolve completely and it would not be going into the light. If it's a spirit being, it has its own energy and its own place in existence and so forth. And I would say that would be not a good idea because it has its function, whether we can approve or agree or understand it or not is beyond, is like not the point of it. It's like we can make it not come to us and just leave us alone, but no.
Yeah, and I wouldn't try it because I think depending on the being, if it was a demonic being, if it was strong enough and advanced enough in the hierarchy to actually be considered a demonic being, what most people would call a demonic being, it will react like any other being attacked.
Yeah.
And it will, work
Attack
to defend
back.
itself and attack back. And you don't need to draw that unless you're being attacked in the first place and then defend yourself. But don't go picking fights, so to speak.
Yeah, it seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Tammy says, I count backwards by 3 from 100. It works, but not in a crowd. Julia says, arg, one of my pet peeves, the music in stores being so loud. I say I'm here to shop, not to be at a dance party. Yeah, well, you never know what might happen. One year in Safeway, they had a particularly fun ditty on that made me want to skip and fly like an airplane. So I started going down the aisles with my arms out and making airplane noises. And Ian laughed and said, I wish I could do that. I said, it's easy.
That's the least usual thing to have happen, though.
I said, it's easy. You just put your arms out like go, Arr! But yes, he wasn't as free-spirited, I guess, and unconcerned with what the public might think as me. I was spontaneous at the time. But yes, I'm not fond of a lot of it. Dizzy says, go to the light if they were given that option? No, they're not a disincarnated being that was once human. The light is for human spirits to cross over. That's it. It's like it's their realm. And they wouldn't want to go there. They wouldn't find it attractive. That's how I work as a paranormal individual. Is I open up the portal to the light, and the human souls see it, and they want to go to it because it's sort of a built-in draw. So I would say no. Frankie Pants says, ooh, very interesting. Thank you. Welcome. Julia says that Dizzy, they aren't dead. Why should any spirit have to go to the light? Yeah, that's just what I said. Pastor says, yeah, magnesium may help in doing cardio to get the adrenaline from stress out of you. It helped my nightmares. And magnesium is good for relaxation for sure. Fryer says, nightmares, huh? So you know DNA contains the soul of the once living. I suppose that is one way of looking at ancestors. Frankie Pants says, at Astra, I take magnesium daily because I'm also on potassium. And at Briar, like my past lives, I know about that. Well, my DNA doesn't contain my past lives in particular, since I've been all over the place. And I doubt if we were all related. Dizzy says that Julia, I'm aware of that. I meant if given the choice, theoretical question, this is the place for it. Yes, theoretical question, and the answer to the theoretical question is, in our opinion, a resounding no. Briar the Liar says, I personally think you can destroy just about anything, even spirits, but not gods.
Well, I agree that there's that potential there, but I don't agree that it's a good thing to try because, like I say, in my opinion, they'll fight back. They can potentially, and yeah.
Astra says, yeah, lower energies are part of the ecosystem like astral spiders or black orbs. I just ignore them and clean my space, process my traumas. I just notice and try not to overanalyze. Well, yeah, if you pay too much attention to them, then they multiply. And then they're encouraged. They're like, hey, this person really wants to interact with us. Hey, let's see if we can get some more action. But yeah.
Yeah, on the astral plane, it's up from the material plane, and the material plane, of course, opposites attract like the poles of a battery, positive and negative. But on the astral plane, like attracts like. So what you think of most of the time is what you're going to attract.
Yep.
With the exception of special circumstances.
Beth says, yes, don't spar with demons, only use protection. It could turn into a dangerous situation. Just protect you. Julia says, I know, Dizzy smiles. That was why I asked why someone would want to do that if something isn't dead. Donna says, hi, Dizzy. If you're talking about demons from Christian tradition, I believe their whole thing is that they can't be destroyed or sent to the light. Maybe look at what Arabs do with jinn. Rug. Astra says, yep. Sapphire says, do you have an animal past life you could tell us about? I kind of only really remember those. Well, I had one that happened spontaneously that I remembered when I was at the Washington Zoo when I was a teenager. I went to go see Mohini the white tiger because she was quite the, exhibit. And I was waiting, I was standing, I actually got into the front to be in front of her enclosure to look at her. And I felt eyes on my back of my head. And I turned around because of the feeling of being stared at, and across the way was a black panther standing up on top of his log, and our eyes locked, and I remembered being his mate in the jungle and eating and sleeping and having kittens or cubs or whatever they're called. I remembered an entire lifetime being a black panther in the jungle. And at that point, everyone who had been behind me is now in front of me because I've turned around, and they all turn around to see what I'm looking at. And when they all turned around to see what I was looking at, the panther let me go and turned his back on everyone. So that would be the one I clearly remember. Sundrop says, I've been busy. Did I miss something? How do you get rid of demons? We weren't talking about getting rid of them. Someone asked a theoretical question, I guess it was, how to get rid of them, to kill them or destroy them or make them go to the light. So you'll have to rewind afterwards and watch that part. Dizzy said, just asking a theoretical question. Fighting demons is above my pay grade. If that was my situation, that's what I would have said. Fire the Liar says, no, what I meant was DNA contains a part of your soul, your will, so if you are eating something that didn't want to die, then it could haunt you for a short while in your dreams. I guess it depends on how sensitive you are. I am sometimes pretty sensitive. Sundrop says, there seems to be a difference between demons and disembodied spirits. Am I right? The spirits can cross over, demons can't? Yep.
Well, if they're
yes.
Disembodied human spirits.
Yes. Fryer says, as far as spirits go, you could seal them or anything, really. Grumpy Al says, I think I've read Aleister Crowley trying to attempt that. Trying to seal a demon or a spirit into something.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, though I'm not familiar with that aspect in particular.
Breyer says you could seal anything, but they could break free. Yeah, and they might be mad about being held captive. That whole approach never made any sense to me, but there's certainly entire groups of people that do things like that, which we don't need to get into here. But yeah, if your seal is weak. Grumpy Al says, no, make it go back to God. I mean, if it is being what it's supposed to be, there's nowhere it needs to go. It already is where it's supposed to be, so something like that, yeah. Fryer says you could send it to another realm, only if it's a realm that's compatible with its being. I mean, if you're trying to evoke a spirit, you have to consider what its needs are. So the color of the light, the energy that's there, and so forth, that makes it comfortable and allows it to manifest itself.
Yeah, you couldn't send a being of the lunar zone to any other zone. To try and force it to would be to basically kill the being if that were the case. And I'm not sure that that's entirely possible because Barton points out in his books a lot of the beings that help protect people from things like that, and being a coyote reflects back in the Akasha upon you, and the Akasha will stop you from being able to do certain things, even though they may be theoretically or technically possible. I don't know if that's going to make sense to
It protects,
somebody without the background.
right, it protects the universe in that sense from things that aren't supposed to happen.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but it's like, well, things happen anyway. Bad shit happens, and that's all there is to that.
So Beth says, Aleister Crowley used a lot of Egyptian incantations. He did a lot of dark things, and he's trying. He didn't answer well. Okay.
Well, Crowley he did use a lot of Egyptian stuff. He liked the barbarous words, which I agree are not a valid magical practice. Judging it by Barden's works, whom I consider to be the greatest adept who ever wrote anything that I have written.
Read.
Sorry. Yes.
Unless you are his incarnation. But no, he died fairly recently. So Alexa says, something grabbed my foot and wouldn't let go yesterday in my dream. I don't know what that was. I woke up and nothing was there. I was confused. I don't know either. Maybe somebody's worried you're on the wrong path and is trying to put your foot back where it belongs as an interpretation. Or you think you're on the wrong path and need to change your direction. Dizzy says that Jono, that's another sentient being I don't know much about. Consequently, I could also ask if angels could be destroyed, but I don't want to think about that because I love them. Friar the Liar says, I'm talking you could wrap it in a cube of energy to contain it and send it to another place. Theoretically. But why bother? If it's where it's supposed to be, leave it alone. Astor says, yep, God made lower energies just like he made bugs. Prefer fluffy kittens to bugs, though. Yep, me too.
I have also another, just back on the demon thing just for a moment. The automatic reaction is banishing or to send them someplace or something, but I have found in the case where I was worried that we were going to have a problem with somebody because that somebody worshipped a demon, and I was afraid we were going to have a problem with that demon, I went out of body with some help from some beings on the other planes and had a conversation with that demon, and this is one of the ones that would be called a demon, the Christian hierarchy, one of the ones from King Solomon's Grimoire, and had a conversation with that demon and solved the problem and kind of made a deal with him that, like, if his follower, the guy worshiping him, left us alone and didn't bother us whatsoever, do anything to harm us or anything, then I would leave him alone and the demon alone and wouldn't cause a problem. So rather than take the old medieval approach of approaching it with a sword and threatening the being and threatening to burn its seal with stinking herbs and things to punish it, and that type of approach I find only leads to antagonism, and even a negative being, if it's really a negative being and not a chaotic energy. And there are some energies that are just chaotic, they can't be dealt with, they have no intellect whatsoever. But if it's really a genuine demonic being, then it has an intellect and can be reasoned with, and even a negative being has to follow certain laws of existence. Like if you step off a cliff, you fall to the bottom, that's just a fact. Unless, of course, you can levitate. That's another
Rare.
story. But anyway, yeah. So yeah. My point is, whether you could do these things or not is up for contemplation, I suppose. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking the question. But I would just put it to it that very, very seldom, if ever, would something like that be needed. I'm trying to say my words carefully because I don't want to offend anybody, and there's always, any rule there's an exception to.
Well, I mean, if something's attacking me, I'm
Yeah.
going to defend myself. That's
Well,
just
yes.
the way that works. But
Yeah.
if that's not the case, then, they exist, I exist. Grumpy Owl says, personally, I wouldn't go near an entity like that. You don't know what evil actually is until it's near you. Sundrop says, my comment is too long. I'm sorry. I'll ask next time. Beth says, the speaker hates me. Aleister Crowley's journey did not end well. Afraid part a bit about him. I find it quite fascinating.
Well, he is fascinating, but I don't know exactly what you mean by his journey did not end well.
He died.
He lived to an old age. He was about 72, and he died. He died alone, unlike what some of his works predicted, that his death would be glorious. All who see it shall be glad. And I guess that was true because he died alone and nobody saw his death. So if anybody had seen it, maybe they would have been glad, who knows. But
Or they were just happy he wasn't around anymore because they didn't have to lock up their daughters when he came into town,
well,
which was hysterically funny.
But that was his own writing that predicted. Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, as far as didn't end well, he didn't have any money. He ended up kind of broken alone, and all of the public vilification of him. But he didn't meet with any grand disaster or anything because of his magic or what he did, as far as I know.
I mean, he suffered because he was an asthmatic, and the only treatment they had for it was heroin. And then he became an addict, and then he hated that, and he would get off of it, and then his asthma would come back, and he'd have to get on it again. And, he went from being a world-class mountain climber and everything to having this infirmity because of the damage to his lungs, maybe from high altitudes. It could be how he got asthma in the first place. But that's like a physical infirmity, and there were no other options for the healthcare industry as we know it now, did not have anything else to deal with asthma at the time.
They got doctors and got them addicted, so.
Right, and of course we know now people are getting addicted to stuff that doctors are doing to them too, so, that still is happening, but anyway.
Of course, he couldn't kick it, and that might be to some a sign of his weakness of will.
Or his body just, needed to have it, or he was going to not have any air.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, so
Sorry.
Astra says, it helps me to not take things personally when I look at it that way. Darkness and light is part of life, but we can still take measures to protect ourselves. Yeah. Sundrop says, let me ask again before time is up. Fire says, I believe in the sealed realm, a realm of the sealed, but that's my belief. Sundrop says, have you seen the YouTube channel A Haunting? Some homeowners can't get rid of spirits, even telling them to cross over. No, I haven't, but the reason why people can't get rid of them is usually that they don't know what they're doing. Astra says, wow, yeah, you got to pick your battles wisely. Sundrop says, leaving the next homeowner to be haunted. Yeah, that's because they don't know what they're doing. Dizzy says that Grumpy Owl, I can definitely imagine Crowley would try that. No, I don't resonate with dark beings. It bothers me that I don't understand what they are, at all.
Well, don't let it bother you. There are a lot of things that I personally am glad I don't understand. The behavior of some really twisted people and things like that. And you know what? I'm happy not understanding it in that sense. In a certain way, to understand those type of things, you have to open yourself up to them, and there are a lot of things I'm simply not willing to open myself up to.
Or they have nothing to do with your nature, so that's why you can't understand them. I decided it's a good thing.
Well, there's that too.
I can't understand serial killers or sociopaths because I have nothing in common with them, and that's okay. That's okay with me. Dizzy says, Grumpy Owl, I can definitely imagine Crowley would try that. No, I don't resonate with dark beings. It bothers me that I don't understand what they are at all. Friar says, or you could ask the gods to deal with the spirit if you believe it is unrealistic or not fair. Well, sure, certainly. And we have, some points in our history, done that. Dizzy says, Friar, no worries. I don't want to interact with them. Seriously. Friar says, just my personal belief. Beth says, it is said that Barbara Bush is his daughter. When Barbara Bush's mother went to visit her friend, that it was with Aleister Crowley. She got pregnant and went back home. Has anyone else read about that? I have never read anything about Barbara Bush being Aleister Crowley's daughter. He has a son. And as far as I know, it's his only progeny, and he doesn't want to have anyone know who he is. Dizzy says, Ian, thank you for that, asking the question, but I wouldn't want to interact with them, but I love how you handled that compassionately with wisdom. Donna says, you guys are reminding me of Ian's Crowley video. Oh, he retracted it. I read it first, though, so too late. Waller says, I find Crowley fascinating, often an unpopular opinion.
Oh, there's a lot of people who out there, there's a lot of Thelemites and people who follow Crowley who realize that despite his, the press that he got and all the negative stuff, he wasn't really that negative of a person. It was all blown out totally by the newspapers and things of the time. And one thing I don't think anybody could say about him is that he wasn't serious about his magic. He was very serious about it and what he did, and he really meant it. So, he wasn't out just screwing around. He was serious about what he did.
Astra laughing. Alexis says, have you heard the theory where there's a cube on the moon and the souls on Earth are trapped here and they go back to that cube after they die to reincarnate on Earth? That sounds like Scientology to me, and I disagree with that completely. I've never seen anything like that when I've dealt with spirits and helped them cross over to the other planes, and I've never remembered being on a cube on the moon. And I've remembered between my lives, so I think not. I think that's just somebody's theory, and they are enjoying hearing themselves talk. Donna retracted another message. Breyer says, does anyone believe in immortality? Well, immortality in the sense of the spirit, yes.
I do in a sense, yeah. You at some point you develop enough, you'll remember your past lives and you'll be immortal, and you'll remember, all your past lives and things as if they were yesterday. And that I believe. As far as a body remaining, I think there are some things you can do with alchemy and things like that, and the Philosopher's Stone. I think you can extend the life of the body way farther than modern scientists believe. But I don't believe you can make a body immortal, because normally what
made out of the substances.
Well, you can mummify your astral body, according to Barden. He doesn't go into much detail about it. He mentions it in passing. But I gather the thing is that if you do that, you also can't advance and grow. If you can mummify your astral body so it doesn't get injured, it doesn't get harmed, it doesn't grow older, but that also means it can't change and improve. You're kind of stuck.
It makes you outside of the evolution of the rest of humanity.
Right.
Your spiritual evolution is stopped.
Yeah. So I don't think, and I don't think it's literal immortality is physical possibility, though I do believe you can extend your lifespan long beyond what anybody believes scientifically.
So Beth says, oh yes, he was very serious about his magic. He was extremely dedicated. That would be Crowley. And Astra says, yeah, Crowley liked some of the attention of being bad, but probably wasn't evil in real life. Yeah, I'm sure that's the case.
Yes, he thought that
any attention is good attention.
Yeah, he thought for a long time that any publicity was going to do him good, help him sell copies of the Equinox and help his fame and all that. But he really, took a brush full of feces and painted himself with it. I don't believe it. But anyway, that's a whole other subject. I know a lot about Crowley, but I definitely am not following him at this point.
Right, and he has done a video on the subject, so you can look it up.
Barden. Actually, I don't know that I did one.
Yes, you did.
Did I? Okay.
You did. According to
I know I did one on Barden, but okay.
Yes, and then Jono adds,
okay.
Ian's Barden video also, so much information I didn't know, really painted a picture of who they were as people. Fire the Liar says, I'll speak on immortality in a minute. That's about all you're going to have, because we're getting close to the end of the show. Paula says, I share my Crowley fascination with the great Jimmy Page.
That's true. I understand that Jimmy Page owned his house at Boleskine. I'm
In
not sure how to pronounce it. In Scotland,
Yeah.
for a while.
I was telling my granddaughter about that the other day and how the OTO really blew it with Jimmy Page when he was going to give them all of the stuff from Crowley's estate, and they made him mad.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I haven't read this anywhere in documentation, but I heard from some OTO people down in Thelema Lodge one time that he had been prepared to give them or donate the house to the OTO, but then they screwed it up somehow. And this is just hearsay from some other OTO members, so I don't know how much validity it has, but they were there at the time, so potentially it could be.
Astra says he was like the Ozzy Osbourne of witchcraft. At the end of the day, Ozzy is a regular human.
Well, that's very true.
Sundrop says, do you go on TikTok? Lots of witches and witchy advice. No. I cannot share my knowledge in 30-second clips. It doesn't work that way. Why I'm on YouTube.
But, speaking of Ozzy and groups like that, I talked to Blue Oyster Cult twice, actually in person. Without going into how that happened, I was a giant fan of theirs at the time. They have some rather negative songs in the order of some of the stuff Crowley sang. But yeah, they weren't really. And the members of the band themselves, which I didn't know at the time I was talking to them, but they didn't go for the magic, the mysticism. They didn't know about it. They didn't care about it. They just sang the songs that were written by Sandy Pearlman. So I was not aware of that at the time, and even though they sang songs about magic and mysticism and a couple about the devil and things like that, they were not involved in that at all themselves. They were just musicians singing the music they were given at that time.
So Alexa says, laugh out loud, thank you. That would be the cube on the moon. Beth says, Ian, it would be awesome if you did a video on Aleister Crowley. He has one out there. Maybe you'll do another.
Well, I don't think I have an actual video on Crowley like that.
Okay.
That's going to be hard to condense down into a single video, but yeah, I think then I should do that.
Why not? Jono says, was the OTO Boleskine screw up before or after the fire?
I don't know time-wise.
Arrow says, agreed. Dizzy says, Ian and Siofra, I totally get what you say about understanding evil. I don't need to understand that. I'm kind of mentally categorizing different types and traits of sentient beings, very generally. Sundrop says, now TikTok has 10-minute slots. Still, 10 minutes is not much time for me to babble on. And then, Babylon.
Crowley loves Babylon.
I know.
Scarlet Woman.
I know.
Since we're talking Crowley, sorry. Anyway.
No, okay. But there's only so many hours in the day, and I have to take care of myself and my own mental health as well as share what I know with other people. So I'm happy with where I'm at the moment.
So I'll be glad to do a video on Crowley with the caveat that he is not the path of magic I follow anymore at all.
Jono says, Ian, your Crowley video is a masterpiece to me at least. So you should rewatch the video you've already done. So
okay. I didn't realize I'd done one, so okay.
Well, there's a lot we've done. We have over 400 videos out there, so it's hard to remember all of our topics.
True.
But yeah, so.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that sounds like a good thing. All right, so we've only got like a minute left. So I guess we're starting to say goodbye to everybody, and no more questions at this point. So if you're trying to send us one, I might read it, but it won't do you any good.
Well, blessed be, and thank you for being here.
And I hope everybody has a wonderful solstice, whether it's winter or summer, and get together if they want to be, and not if they don't, and just do what you do. And if you have any questions, you can always send them to me at Siofra's Magic Alcove at gmail.com, or you can join me on Facebook on my profile, Siofra Bradigan. We now have a private group called Siofra's Magic Alcove that you can join and have different access to whatever we do, that kind of thing. All right, guys. So Frankie Pants says, great first live. Thank you. You're welcome. So thank you to everybody. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you hopefully next week. It'll be the Christmas Eve episode.
Good night, everybody. Or good day, or good morning, or whatever.
Or wherever you are.
Yep,
Good,
wherever you
great,
are.
and wonderful. Have a great time. Bye-bye, all.